appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, we will now open the Estacada City Council. And if you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Cindy, if I could have roll call, please.
Counselor Dunsmuir,
Here.
Counselor Gates,
Here.
Counselor Hughes,
Here.
Counselor Lidkey,
Here.
Counselor Strobel,
Here.
Counselor Tenbush,
Here.
Mayor Drinkling.
Here, thank you very much, Sadie. Okay, we're moving along to the IT department update from John Jackson. How are you, sir?
Thank you, sir. I'm doing well. It's
Good.
my pleasure to share with the City Council and our city staff and attendees what we're doing with our IT department. So I'm going to share my screen here, and hopefully this works all right. I hit the right button. Okay, so the City of Estacada has been engaged with my company, Gig, which I'm the owner, for almost 2 years now. And so we've been providing IT and cybersecurity support for the City of Estacada. Just a quick update on what we've been doing thus far. We've been giving proactive care support for the whole organization. I'm not going to read through all our bullets here, but just, comprehensive help desk and desktop support. We've been spending a lot of time working with the city staff remotely, especially through COVID, as well as doing a lot of on-site visits as well, and taking care of after-hours network and server emergencies and things like that as needed. Our involvement's been on what we would call, I guess, in the business world, a C-level consultation, maybe a little different terminology used in city government, but having quarterly business reviews, providing network documentation and inventory and license management, as well as helping manage other technology-related vendors. Our team has a 24/7, 365 network monitoring tool where we monitor the city's network for any faults, any critical issues, and watch for those alerts. And so anytime those alerts happen, we're able to act on them proactively. We also do things such as Windows Update Management, disk cleanups, and general support for the network and making sure that it's up to date and running properly. In the past year, we've been working a lot on cybersecurity with the city. So we're providing an advanced endpoint security, including things like antivirus and malware and other types of intrusion prevention and things like that to help protect the city's computers and laptops and desktops and servers. We've also done things such as data encryption for the laptops, and we have ongoing security scanning happening all the time right now. We're also doing things such as dark web monitoring, looking for any third-party breaches that may have leaked sensitive passwords and credentials on the dark web. We also are working on doing things such as email backups, making sure that all emails have an extra set of backups in addition to the main provider. Doing things such as email security with anti-spam and things like that, and providing end-user training to the city staff on what to look for and good password protection policies and other types of general cybersecurity guidance and training. We're also rolling out a password manager, and we have things running in the background as well, such as data loss prevention tools. We have data secured in multiple places, offsite cloud backups, and we have multiple backups running for automatic nightly offsite transfer. We do backup verification, make sure that the backups are usable, and anytime those backups fail, we get notifications of those as well. In addition to that, we're also in progress of rolling out policies, and so this specifically focuses on things such as the CJIS compliance, which the city is under under governance of, as well as PCI compliance. And so we're going to be rolling out things such as a breach incident response plan and password policies and things like that. So that's kind of what's to come here in the near future. I've been working with a lot of city staff for the past, like I said, almost 2 years, and they've been tremendous to work with and have been very flexible and adaptable to newer technology best practices. And so my hat's off to them, because we've made a lot of changes, and sometimes change management is not always easy. So this is kind of just a overall overview of what we're doing right now for the city. Doing our best to make sure that we're not, our city is not the next headline in the news for data breaches and things like that. So it's our goal. So as well as providing, just continue to make sure that the day-to-day operations are not disrupted. So with that, I thought I'd throw this up, open to a few questions if we have time, just see if there's anything else that I missed or maybe didn't cover, or any comments or concerns.
Sure. Are there any questions for John Jackson from the council? Anybody?
Quick question for you. How periodically are you doing security audits on the city, with as far as audit logging, and are you using automated programs for that, or when can you expand about your security auditing process a little bit?
Yeah, so we're running some SIM logging at all times on the network, and so that's just a never-ending thing. So it's just always collecting that data.
Gotcha.
Automatically.
What about your C-level training?
So C-level training.
Yeah, I know you talk about staff education and stuff in there, but what about considering like what protecting against whaling, things like that? So C-level cybersecurity training.
So if you're talking about training the
Okay.
upper echelons of the city staff or the city council themselves?
Council, upper echelons, we have equipment as well. So
yeah, we are pushing out those emails now to city council staff. If you guys haven't been doing that, getting those emails from us, definitely let me know. They could be ending up in spam for some reason. So we're still working through some of those.
yeah, I haven't seen any myself. So, and the last thing I saw in there that caught my attention was PCI compliance. Can you expand on the purpose for the PCI compliance and to what level you're going to be going? Also, is the city going to be seeking any like ISO certifications or anything?
So with the PCI compliance, I can speak to that one. There is a payment card processing machine on the city network. And so we have to periodically provide compliance back to the payment card vendor and provide reports. And that essentially the main task that we've been focused on with that is just making sure that the device is isolated on the network and nothing else can reach it.
Gotcha. And then
and when it comes to your ISO question, I might have to answer that one offline. I'm not prepared to answer that one here today.
no worries. I would love to have a further conversation with you sometime. That's what I do for
Sure.
work. So it's got me curious. So,
Absolutely.
but that's all I had. Thanks.
Hey, thank you, Joel. Anybody else? No? Hey, John, we thank you very much for the update.
Not a problem. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, well, thank you again. You do great work. Okay, moving along. We are at the first citizen and community group comment. Just to remind everyone, you have 3 minutes to speak. We'd like your name and address before you start. And council, we are not voting on anything tonight. We are listening to everybody that's out there. So we will start with that. And in that, Sadie, do we have anybody standing in right now?
Yeah, I just brought in Marilyn Lloyd. So she
Okay,
just needs to hit *6 on her phone to unmute,
okay,
and then she'll have 3 minutes to speak, and I'll have my timer going here.
excellent, thank you. Marilyn, are you there?
Yes, I am. My
Well,
name's
thank you.
Marilyn Lloyd. I live at 10901 Southeast Lawrence Road. I am right at the top of the north end of the culvert, the curve that runs around Lawrence Road. I am very worried about the traffic proposed using the egress from phases 1 and 2. There's going to be a total of 86 lots. If you times that times 2 vehicles each, it's 172 vehicles. This also is added to delivery trucks, plus home service vehicles, plus friends and family. This amount of new traffic would be added to an already dangerous road. Provide egress from phase 2 and 1 onto Lawrence Road and then south to Copeland Road. Lawrence Road is divided north and south by a curve that runs downhill and uphill across Curran Creek. It's a blind entrance to both sides of the curve. Visibility is very poor, especially when the creek bed is all leafed out, making nearly impossible to see traffic already on the curve until you are already on it. With most of the road is a gravel semi-paved road, is very narrow with a couple of spots that are wide enough to pull to the side and let traffic pass. Larger vehicles find this nearly impossible. We have had some problems with the road being blocked. Here recently, a couple months ago, we had a semi that I thought he could make the curve, and he was stuck. I was on the other side away from home, and it took me 2 hours for them to tow that vehicle out, thus blocking me and any emergency vehicles that have been needed. And on April the 2nd, my Loaves and Fishes driver came close to being hit head on by a large speeding truck coming up to the north end of Lawrence Road. She reacted by pulling to the right and came dangerously close to going off the road and down the hill to the creek. Everyone has experienced some stories of hairy near misses on the dangerous road. Adding more traffic from phase 2 will be logging and dump trucks with trailers adding stuff necessary to develop phase 1 and 2. Now, you have all voted on adding this much more traffic, causing an increase in wrecks, injuries, and heaven forbid, deaths. Knowing the dangerousness of this road and adding more traffic, could I make you morally, if not legally, responsible for anything that happens? May God give you guidance in making the decision to rescind this matter. I thank you. Respectfully, Marilyn Lloyd. God bless.
Thank you, Marilyn. Okay. Sadie,
We
Next
have
one.
Mary Etheridge coming on.
okay. Mary, are you there? Are you there, Mary? She's muted there. You want to see if she can,
Mary, can you unmute yourself? I can bring in the next.
Can you hear me
there
now?
she goes. She's there, yeah. We can hear you, Mary.
Okay, I don't know if can you see me?
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, then here I go.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and repeat a lot what Marilyn said, but I would like to make a request to the City Council of Estacada, along with 16 other residents that have signed a petition in our neighborhood, our little community, who reside on Lawrence Road and South Woodland Road, to change or modify the decision to pave and connect Lawrence Road. This is due to numerous traffic concerns to the new development of Curran Creek Estates, Phase 1 and 2. Currently, there are approximately 43 homes on Lawrence Road. I went around and counted, and connecting Woodland Road, who use Lawrence Road as their means of access to their homes, going to work, etc., dropping onto Copeland Road currently. If we realistically discern that each household has 2 vehicles per home, there's possibly more in use, that Lawrence Road and Woodland could have a current usage that could literally be up to 82 cars on a daily basis. Think about it. I repeat, that number 82 needs to also be adjusted to add Amazon Prime delivery people, mailmen, and school buses, which come on a morning, midday, and afternoon. Once Curran Creek Phase 1 is finalized and the 43 homes times 2 vehicles, as previously considered on the current 10 acres that you're building Curran Creek Phase 1 on, the 43 cookie cutter homes added to Lawrence Road's equation and usage, that could lead in theory up to 86 new cars exiting onto Lawrence Road from that access road. Plus the new subdivision, Cascadia Ridge, that bumpers Curran Creek, that also could have that influx also. Don't forget to add the delivery people and the waste management and the oversized vehicles that we've been seeing all last year also, which would be coming to do the new Curran Creek Estates Phase 2. Now we're looking at 168 motor vehicles on a little one-lane road that has no lines in the middle, no side white lines, nothing. That's major traffic concerns for our folks who live on Lawrence Road, many who have resided for 35 plus years. There is a blind corner, a one-lane road, which most of Lawrence Road is already crossing Curran Creek. It's halfway down from Copeland Road to the end of Lawrence Road, where one turns left to the airport. I live near that curve, and I have a picture, but since you can't see me, I could illustrate how the school bus, I'll talk about it. I have seen many near collisions. The school bus has to avoid opposing vehicles that are in their lane to avoid an accident. The road is not wide enough. And you want to put more traffic on this road? I observed the afternoon 66 passenger school bus driver. He has to honk his horn at my mailbox. He puts on his flasher before heading down the hill and crossing the creek. There were way too many dump trucks and large oversized cats and vehicles heading all last year to the new subdivision before the yellow gate was placed on Curran Creek's new housing development. And now a new subdivision is going to be bordering that subdivision to drop onto Lawrence Road also. What a nightmare. It's so very, very unsafe. The intersection of Copeland and Lawrence is literally a 25-mile-an-hour lane or one-lane road, Lawrence, dropping onto a rural thoroughfare, which drops down to the high school. That speed limit is 50 miles an hour on Copeland, where travelers sometimes reach speeds of 60 plus. The subdivision's long loads were swinging wide onto Copeland, hitting ditches, driving into other people's lanes on Copeland. Ask the neighbors what danger they saw around there. Sorry. You want traffic to divert the downtown core by exiting Cascadia Ridge to Lawrence to Curran on Deuce Road? That's hogwash. I mean, that's an idea that I'm sure is kind of crossing everybody's mind in the new developer, but you can't even take a left there on Copeland. Lastly, when making calls a year ago to City Hall to ask about the gate to the new subdivision, numerous neighbors on Lawrence, including myself, were quoted. This was an emergency gate, only to be open and used in case of an emergency for fire and police only. The private properties, the owner down there where the private property signs, a neighbor posted on that gravel road where my little boys used to walk around constantly. I called about that. Oh, that's not a private road, City Hall said. It has no name. It's just a gravel road. Well, we would really appreciate the council to revisit their decision in hopes we can keep Lawrence Road and Woodland Road and our little community a safe place for all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mary. We appreciate your testimony. Okay, next on the list.
Carrie Geyer.
Okay,
No,
Carrie, are you
sorry.
there?
No, I'm not talking. It's a mistake.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Then I will bring in Ken and Bennett Johnson.
Okay. Ken, are you there?
Okay, we're here.
Okay, great.
All right, so ours is really short. We heard that the Forest Service has decided to keep the forest closed and the campgrounds closed. And we think that, 2020 was bad enough with the kick in the guts with all the lockdowns and also the forest fire or the wildfires. And so businesses have had to really take it in the last year and a half. And to have them close down the forest and the Clackamas River and the campgrounds is going to be pose even more economic hardship on the town. I don't know if people realize how many visitors come to Estacada during the summer months, but it's a lot of people. We have a lot of people coming to our place, and those people wander around the town and spend money elsewhere. So well, our idea is that the council or the mayor on behalf of the council write letters and make telephone calls to the federal government representatives, our state senators, not state senators, but our US senators and our US representatives, all of them, and tell them that, economic hardship on Estacada, it's a town that's already been economically challenged in the past. And they have the resources to get this stuff all done. And all they need to do is deploy the resources in that direction. So that's all we wanted to say.
I appreciate that, Bennett. Thank you. Okay, do I have anybody else in the queue?
I don't have anybody with their hand raised.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for tonight, coming forward and giving testimony on Lawrence Road, and also Bennett for bringing forward that declaration of the forest and the economic hardships we'll be facing. We appreciate that, and we will look closely at this, and thank you for that. Okay, moving ahead, we are at the consent agenda. I think you've all had a chance to read it. Katie, do you have a question?
Yeah, just based on the testimony we just heard during the citizen comment period, I was hoping that we could add an agenda item that would be E for under council business. And I just want to have a quick discussion as a council to talk about the Lawrence Road decision, just to talk for a minute, if that's okay.
Is that something we can do, Denise, on this, or is that something we should pull to the next?
Denise,
can't
you're
hear
muted.
you.
The council can certainly discuss it. Staff will not have any input because we aren't ready for any questions. We'd have to research, but the council can do whatever they want.
Okay, all right.
Just conversation is all I'm asking for.
All right, we'll pull it into E under council business, and we will revisit that in just a moment here. So thank you. On that note, has everybody had a chance?
I would like to move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, so I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, first and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. All right, we are at department and committee reports. So we will start off with all of you who wish to speak on your commissions or committees, if you have any. Jerry, go ahead. You start us off.
So the Parks and Rec, we met, the Parks and Rec Commission met, and I don't know if you guys were aware, but it got blasted at the very beginning and a couple of times throughout with somebody. I don't know if they hacked it or what, but it was pretty disgusting. And Taryn stayed on top of it, kicking those people out as they came in, but it was pretty bad. It was bad, but the meeting went well. A lot of great ideas. The bike loop, the mountain bike loop park that they were hoping to build. I guess the school district is selling that property and selling all, trying to get every penny they can out of it, selling the timber on the property and everything. So that plan is going to have to be revisited. They're looking at alternate places to place that park, but it's still a really great idea. Hopefully maybe that that open space up in the new development would fit the bill there. I suggested it to Brent, and they're gonna look at that. But it was a good meeting.
Good. Thank you, Jerry. Anybody else? Jody.
Yeah, hi. So the school board met, there was a meeting on Tuesday night. It was a town hall. And I went to that. And then there was also just the regular school board meeting Thursday night. So just wanted to report back that budget is on track for the year. So that's good. Enrollment is up. So they have some students coming in from other districts, just simply because we've been open. So exciting, but also challenging at the same time, as that then presents problems for next year. The exciting part is that we're going to have more students. The challenging part is the space. So something that the school board and superintendent and staff have to sort of suss out over the summer what they're going to do as far as providing for these extra students they're going to get in. Most of these extra students are at the elementary level, and primarily it's River Mill that is having that huge influx of students. So they were discussing, since the bond measure didn't pass, in order to accommodate these kids, they need more desks and just adding that for that safe spacing. So they're looking at portable classrooms and portable structures. Not everybody's favorite, but that's something that they're looking at as far as a kind of a temporary solution to get them through this until maybe a bond in the future can then add to either build a new school or add to the current buildings. Let's see. Also, I wanted to let everyone know, if people aren't, attending the town halls or just checking their emails with the updates, there's going to be a survey going around that either, and this is for primarily parents who are concerned, whether we're going to have a 4 or 5 day school day or school week next year. So that's going to be a survey that people need to watch out for, and then they can kind of pick and choose like what's going to work best for them. They prefer a 4 day or a 5 day. I know this came up 2 years ago. They were looking at it and we landed on a 5 day, but now COVID. And so who knows what things, where people are going to sit for next year. So that's something that's going to have to be worked out. And then as well as the intent. So the intent for next year for fall, for school board and for, the superintendent, for all students to be back all days, full time, and what that's going to look like or how they're going to do that, that's their big job this summer. But the intent is to get all the kiddos back in school every single day, full time. So that's their big work this summer, and that's kind of what they're going to be working on. So yeah, big meeting, but all kind of exciting and challenging stuff. And yeah, we'll see what they do.
Good. Thank you, Jarity. That was great. Paul.
Had the Estacada Library Board meeting last week or a couple weeks ago, but the big notice is that they are open now as of April 5th. Limited days, limited times, but they are open, and just encourage folks to check the Facebook page for what their hours are. And they ask for patience. They'll continually be evaluating to see what more they can do and what more they can take on. That's all.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Katie.
So I've got two. I've got the Estacada Connects, which is that group of nonprofits that come together once a month or once a quarter. I don't know, everything is blended together these days. To be honest with you, I wasn't a part of the whole meeting because I've had some personal stuff going on, but got to chime in. There's a lot of people in Estacada who are what I would say vested in seeing housing diversity. And so the last meeting that they had was really focused on affordable housing and even more so the need for housing that's out there right now that the people who are working in the nonprofits in our city are seeing, and some of the stories that they have, you know, the families that they're working with. And so the big focus was affordable housing and what are we as a city doing to address the need. Also, how are we partnering with the county? I know that Commissioner Martha Schrader was able to call in for the Estacada area or the Estacada Connects meeting as well. It was a great meeting. I wish I could have stayed for the whole thing, but that was the gist of the meeting. The other one was CHAD. Also unfortunate, I did not get to attend the CHAD meeting, but Matt Lorenzen was awesome and kind of looped me in on some of the conversation. And part of the conversation was mostly focused on the construction excise tax. And it does not sound like the people who were in attendance of that meeting were in favor of it. There were some stakeholders who were missing from the meeting. Disappointingly enough, the Housing Authority, one of those stakeholders that could not participate in the meeting. That being said, though, when the CHAD meeting meets next, I'm going to throw out just some ideas for them. I'd really love to hear their ideas to discuss the more so important point about the 250,000 that we just approved for the through the Urban Renewal Agency for the Stallcut property. Honestly, we approved a $250,000 grant for a project because we believed in it. And I know that there's going to be a project that comes across our desk in the future that we believe in too. And I know every single one of the people who are on the screen right now are going to want to help that project succeed. The problem is we won't be able to afford to go through the Urban Renewal Agency again. And really, we don't have a lot of funds to provide that level or that type of assistance, you know, to help it succeed. So that being said, if we want to do that in the future, we have to have a fund come from somewhere. And I'm really excited to hear what that group's ideas are to see a fund like that. That being said, those were the two meetings, was CHAD and the Estacada Connect. So
Thank you, Katie. Okay, anybody else wish to contribute? No? Okay, we thank you all for those reports. I appreciate it. Keeps us
Actually,
well
Sean, can
informed.
I?
Oh,
can I
Jerry,
ask-
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Taylor, there was a impromptu meeting with the DEIC. Were you able to attend that?
Yeah, there was sort of a, we called it a kickoff. Yeah, I can report out on that. I don't know that we have a council liaison established for the DEIC.
It's
I
me.
think Jerry's the one.
But I didn't. I found out after the fact through Facebook that there was a meeting. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we'll make sure that you're at all of the next meetings. So, yeah, we had a sort of introductory conversation. Everybody except Christina was able to attend. Everyone's availability came together sort of last minute, and so we ended up scheduling on a date that she thought she could make it, and was scheduled to work at a vaccine clinic. So yeah, it mostly was a discussion about kind of committee logistics and exactly how it's going to be set up. You know, they will need to establish their own bylaws and decide whether to have a chair and vice chair and how electing that's going to happen. It sounds like they'll be, you know, they'll be following Robert's rules of conduct for meetings. So if they have a subcommittee, it could only be 3 people. But yeah, they had a lot of questions, and I have all of those questions in a list. And so at the next meeting, plan to gather all of that information for them and help them put together kind of a timeline and plan for how they're going to develop those bylaws and adopt them. And I'll make sure, Jerry, that you're looped into that. They did decide, I hope that this works for you, and maybe we could revisit it if it doesn't, but that their regular meeting schedule will be the second Thursday of each month from 6 to 7 p.m. So.
Okay, well, thank you, Taylor, for that.
Yeah.
So we know what they're up to, and we know that Jerry's going to be there for the next one. He's thumbs up on that, so that's good. All right, moving along, we have the city manager's report.
Yeah, well, as you all know from the email, we had a confirmed COVID case in City Hall, so we'll be closed this week and hopefully reopen on Monday, next Monday. I talked to the mayor since we went to the high level instead of moderate. He had said that we would postpone the in-person open house until May 3rd, and hopefully we'll be down to moderate by that time. Katie?
Is there a reason we can't just go to virtual 100% or virtual
Yeah.
only?
Yeah, we could do that. Let me go over a few statistics.
Okay.
Before we decide. So we have we've received about 275 responses on our survey, online survey. It's a little over 2-to-1 that people want us to not be more restrictive than the state. They want it to be, whatever the state says, that's what they want us to do. We have about 30 paper responses, and those are 2-to-1 the other way. There's about 20 that want to us to keep the restrictions we have, and about 10 that want those restrictions reduced. So we can certainly do the in-person open house. You'll have to have tickets, and there'll be 3 half-hour sessions in one night, and there can be 19 people in each session. So we can see up to 60 people on those in-person ones. And then of course the virtual one, we can have as many as wants to show up. So, and they'll kind of be ran the same. So the in-person ones, our idea was to we would have the 19 chairs sit up in the room at 6 feet apart. And then we would have our projector going, and the mayor and Charity would be explaining to everyone the 4 different options, asking the questions. And then we would have paper for people to respond, but we'd also be recording it. So if they just wanted to respond. So we would start at 6 and go from 6 to 6:30, have 5 minutes to get everyone out and sterilize chairs. Then we'd go 6:35 to 40 till 7:10 with the next group, get everyone out, same thing, and then a half hour with the last group.
Okay.
The online one, pardon?
I think Joel has a question there.
Okay.
I have a variety of questions. First of all, the online survey, who was that open to? Was that open to?
Anybody. We didn't restrict anybody.
So
But
basically,
we do have who filled it out. So they are all local people. But the council made it clear they didn't just want city limit people. They wanted the
yeah,
community.
and I get that. I want people to depend on, the council made it clear they wanted people to depend on Estacada, but we don't want someone from Nevada or
Yeah, no, it
out-
isn't.
out of state.
You can see who filled the form out online.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as, I think it's absolutely critical to Katie's question, my response is, I think it's absolutely critical that we have an in-person one, because there is a large group of people out here that don't do Zoom or don't do online, that do want to express their concerns and give their opinion, and they're planning on attending on the 19th. They'll have to plan to attend in person on the new date, but as far as the having it just virtual, I think that would be a really bad move. And I've spoken to some of these people, and they just don't do Zoom. Either they don't have the capabilities, or it's just too complicated for them. So
Sure. And they will need to have tickets, and it will be limited to 19 people.
And
You
I would
won't be able to get
definitely,
in unless you have a ticket.
I would definitely encourage the city, and I hope the rest of the council would too, to screen and make sure that the people that are coming in are being chosen by difficulty, ability to attend. So if they have the ability to attend online, we shouldn't be giving a ticket to someone in person versus someone who can't.
I don't think we can do that through Eventbrite, but I can see. But yeah, it's pretty much like the school just had their town hall, where it was just the first 50 people, got tickets. So
do they have to go online in order to get these
Yep.
tickets?
Yep.
Can they call the city and get the tickets?
No, but we can walk them through on, their ticket.
I think that's still limiting the people that don't have the ability to get online. We need to really make an option for people that don't have that ability.
Well, I guess we could get their information and do their ticket for them if that's what they have to do.
That
So we
might be
will
what
work
we
from
look
now.
at. So.
Yeah.
Okay, Katie, do you have something else?
Well, so to Joel's point, we have been doing town halls for over a year now. We've had a lot of town halls and we have been doing them virtually with lots of participation and success. And then second to his point, those types of people that you're speaking to and reaching out to them and asking for them or for asking for their opinion, I thought that's what the purpose of the paper survey going out in water bills was.
Not everybody that gets those paper bills are within, that doesn't have the ability to get online, or they don't live right immediately in town where the paper bills might go to. They live on Wales and out of town, but they still depend on Estacada for their city. That's just where they call home. So
well,
reach them.
Hey,
So they
okay, guys,
couldn't
okay, wait. Okay, this is not a debate between you two. I want the city manager to finish her report. Go ahead, Denise. I'd like to hear the rest of it. And Charity, I'll kick you in towards the end there if that's okay. Go ahead. You're muted, Denise.
Staff does not mind having a night for an in-person, to allow up to 60, close to 60 people come in. And we can work something out. If someone doesn't have online, they can call City Hall and we can go online for them as they're on the phone. And as long as they're early enough and the tickets aren't gone, we can help them get a ticket for one of the.
Okay, I would appreciate that. I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
I think allowing
So
the people to be
May
a part.
3rd is what we're aiming for on that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Staff is working very hard on the budget. It's kind of budget time right now. We're spending most of our time doing that. Budget meetings come up at the start of May. Yep. So we need to get that done and get those published. The next meeting, the boards and committees and commissions in our charter, most of them say that they have to give a quarterly report to the council. So we're going to start asking them to do that. So at the next meeting, we are going to ask them all to show up for a quick, 5-minute committee report from their committee for the first quarter, January through March, what's been going on and what they're up to and what their plans are if they want to go into that. You'll also have your financials from me. Everyone just got done with month end, so I can get those ready for your first quarter financial update. We'll have your goals to you to verify or to look at and add or delete or change if you want. And I'm also trying to get the code enforcement and the police there for a report at that same meeting.
Excellent. Yeah,
So
we
at the
haven't
next
seen them.
meeting, and we'll start and we'll warn these committees that, and we have the dates. So the second meeting in July will be the second quarter, and the second meeting in October will be the 3rd, and the second meeting in January will be for the 4th. So they get used to doing that quarterly, so you guys can hear straight from them. It might not be the chair, but it'll be someone from that committee reporting to you.
Excellent.
And that's about all for now. Now, Charity,
Okay,
did you
great.
still have a question?
Charity, do you have a question? No?
Okay.
Okay.
It wasn't a question. It was just more toward the questionnaire and the water bill. There wasn't a return envelope with that. We did get our water bill and we did see the questionnaire in that, and there wasn't a return envelope. There was a return envelope that if you were to return your bill, but it wasn't to where you could fill out your questionnaire and then return it. So, I mean, we can, yes, I know I can discern to go down to City Hall and just turn it in. However, if somebody is, doesn't really have the wherewithal to know that or discern that, then that was a little bit confusing. Okay. Also in the questionnaire, there was a space where you could provide information. There wasn't any, you had to write it on a separate sheet of paper or something like that. So there were some hiccups with the water bill questionnaire thing, but I just wanted to add that since that
we did have a couple people attach a paper.
Okay.
With stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
All right. So thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for the report, Denise. That was very informative. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move into the public hearing. So I will read the script for the public hearing. Okay, I will now close the city council meeting and open the public hearing. Subdivision 2021-02-S, Brett Grantham, Greentown Builders LLC. Do any members of the council wish to abstain or declare ex parte contact? No? Okay, the council will now hear the staff report on this proposal. So would that be you, Taylor?
That would be me.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Do you all see my PowerPoint or your?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got two screens going here. Okay, yeah, so as the mayor mentioned, this is application number 2021-02-S, which stands for subdivision. It's the Eagle Ridge at Curran Creek subdivision, phase 1. And so this presentation is the Planning Commission's report and recommendation to you all, the City Council. Your decision tonight is final unless appealed to LUBA. No pressure. Okay, so a little bit about the applicant and the properties. As mentioned, the applicant is Brett Grantham with Greenworks Contractors, and his representatives for this project, is Anne-Marie Skinner with PBS Engineering. And we're looking at 4 different properties in tax map 34E17D, tax lots 600, 1501, 1500, and 1901. Kind of just at the corner here of Eagle Creek and Hinman, which we'll see a little better. Sorry, we'll see a little better on the next slide. Okay, so just an overview of the proposal. The subdivision would create a total of 112 lots, one of them being a large mixed-use commercial lot, and 111 of them being residential lots. Looking at the site, a total of almost 27 acres involved. There are currently 3 single-family dwellings and various outbuildings on the total area of the site. All of those would be demolished and removed for the development. There are not any known significant resources, historic or archaeological, bodies of water, significant wetlands or riparian habitats in the area, and no unstable soils or steep slopes. Also, this area, you may remember, was recently rezoned from, I guess some of it was, most of it was light industrial, zoned light industrial, and so it was rezoned to North City residential and central mixed use with the adoption of Ordinance 2019-005 last year. And also just noting that it does abut property to the southeast over here that was recently approved for the Valley View Estates subdivision, but that is not yet developed in the works. So here's a little bit zoomed out aerial view showing the site vicinity. So like I said, it's at the kind of just a little bit northwest of the corner of Eagle Creek and Hinman, and at the intersection of River Mill with Eagle Creek. And we'll see how that, well, we can see already how that's going to be connected through the site. Let's see. I think that's all I had to say about the vicinity there. Service considerations. So city sewer is available from the recent extension of River Mill Road, which we actually just saw that kind of in the aerial view there. Water can be extended from Campanella Estates, Valley View Estates, or any other feasible alternative. It'll be approved by the city engineer ultimately. Stormwater will be managed in accordance with the code, and the stormwater analysis and downstream analysis will be approved by the city engineer prior to platting. And actually, I think they have already submitted their stormwater report. The site, let's see, is already served by police and fire and schools. So those will stay the same. And then we'll talk in a moment about site access. But first, looking at the zoning. So NCR is the North City, the new North City residential zone. And so I'm pulling this up just to show both the uses that they're proposing in that zone and also uses that also could be allowed. Highlighted in slightly darker yellow up at the top are single family dwellings. Anywhere in that zone that is farther away than 200 feet from Southeast Eagle Creek Road. So you can't put a single family dwelling within 200 feet. So those are allowed outright. Also allowed outright, if you have a large enough lot, are duplexes. And we all at this point are probably familiar that the city is interested in some more diverse housing types. And so I'm just calling that out. And then in the central mixed use zone for that large lot that they're proposing, that zone will allow multifamily dwellings. The actual uses that are mentioned in this application, by the way, if they're allowed outright, they're not included in the subdivision application. If it is a conditional use, that'll be a separate application that comes into the city. So they are letting us know, yes, we plan to develop this property with single family homes and on the larger lot, multifamily dwellings in the mixed use area. And also, which will later be a different separate conditional use application with a food cart pod or food cart court, which is allowed as a conditional use in the central mixed use zone. Okay, moving right along. So we've got, I think I have like 4 slides here that are all zoomed in, just because if I showed you this whole thing at the same time, you wouldn't be able to see any of the details. So this one is the northernmost part. You can see down in the corner where in their plans we are looking over here in the zoomed in part of the screen. So looking at their utility plans, across the whole development, we're going to have 10-foot public utility easements along each frontage, the frontage of each new lot. So basically, what we see here is all of these lines showing how each individual lot is going to be serviced with each different city service. So we've got sanitary sewer, water, and then storm. And we can see here looking just south of where we were looking, so kind of in the middle, showing how each lot here will be served and how those lines will connect to each other. And then the southernmost part here, this does indicate that they would have a water connection to the line that would be brought down from Valley View Estates. So that connection would be dependent on the development of Valley View Estates there. But if that, for whatever reason, doesn't happen in time, there are also, as I mentioned, other feasible alternatives, including connecting to Campanella Estates to the south. Either way, the city engineer will have to approve that final plan. And then where's my arrow here? The westernmost piece, the central or the mixed use parcel. Here we can see one of the stormwater facilities that they're proposing that would be platted into a tract. And I think we're good to move on to streets. Okay, so once again, I'm zooming in here. So over here, outlined in green is showing where in their plans we're looking at. Several new streets are going to be built with the subdivision, and of course, frontage improvements on the existing streets will also be required. So yeah, we're in the lower right-hand corner of the preliminary plat. Let's see. There is one private drive being proposed. There it is. So I'll talk about the private drive first. It is Southeast 3rd Court, which I'm circling with my mouse. I hope you can see that. And so private drives can be a smaller width than public drives. And this private drive would only be serving 3 lots here. You can see 1, 2, 3. And the reason for that is that you don't want, if possible, you want to avoid having individual driveways taking access from Current Creek Road, which is a major collector. So that's the reasoning for that. And then up here, we have the street section for showing all of these other new streets being built to city standards with a 48-foot right-of-way, curbs, sidewalks, the 10-foot easement on the side there, and then showing the utilities under the street. I'm just noting this. We kind of resolved this issue in the discussion with the Planning Commission, but just noting that there was an error in their original plans. They recognized that Southeast 2nd Court, being a public street, will also be subject to those same city standards and will need to be built to the same 48-foot right of way and pavement width, et cetera, as all of the other new streets. So that's kind of been resolved, and the conditions of approval reflect that. Okay, so that's where we just were. And looking up here to the north. So we're looking at the same street section that will be required for the streets below. And I'm just noting that Southeast 4th Street, I think, was like unintentionally left out of this list, but that Southeast 4th or Avenue here will also be subject to that same 36-foot pavement and a 48-foot right-of-way, et cetera. And then lastly, we're going to look at the so we're looking over here, and we've got this turned sideways. So in this rectangle on the right, north is to the left. So the intersection of Eagle Creek and River Mill, which also to the east of Eagle Creek will be called Southeast Current Creek Road. So Eagle Creek Road is under the county's jurisdiction, and so those frontage improvements and the intersection improvements are up to the county. And so what the county is requiring is northbound and southbound left turn lanes, which we can see shown here, kind of small. And then also that there would be there would not be stop signs for traffic on Southeast Eagle Creek Road, and there would be stop signs for traffic on River Mill and Current Creek Road. They'll also be dedicating additional right-of-way per the county requirements. That's all incorporated into the conditions of approval.
Taylor, was there something about reducing the speed though, recommended by the county?
Yes, if the speed gets reduced, so the process for a speed reduction needs to be initiated by the county. They get the city to sign off on it. It's initiated by the county making the request to the state. So ODOT has to approve the speed reduction that the county requests with the city's concurrence. So I've not heard of any movement on that. But that's something, I don't know, if the city wanted to advocate for that, we could contact the county. This is just a section showing what they'll be building. The county will have them dedicate some additional right of way, but similar to what they would be building. This is showing what the difference in what the county is requiring. So they'll actually have to dedicate an additional 10 feet of right of way. Okay, and so more about the county here. One of the exhibits included with this application is the comments from the county engineering department, and they erroneously were under the impression, I think, that it was recent and hadn't been communicated to this engineer who submitted the comments. But we're under the impression that this portion of Southeast Hinman, actually all of Southeast Hinman, and that this portion of what is sometimes called Glen or Southeast Wren, they were under the impression that these were still under the county's jurisdiction, and they're not. They were recently both annexed and transferred to the city's jurisdiction with the annexation of Valley View Estates, which is right over here. And so I'm just including this here to make sure that everyone is on the same page, and we have proof that it is indeed the city's road, and so therefore city standards apply. That's relevant because the county's comments for this application included recommended conditions of approval that they need to improve the frontage to the county standards on those roads, but county standards don't apply. They don't have jurisdiction over that area. So yeah, none of those comments are relevant for this portion of the road. However, this portion of the road, as we can see here, which this is a clip from CMAP, which when we're not looking at the aerial imagery, it'll show you, the darker and lighter shading, which indicates what is incorporated into city limits and what is still unincorporated. So we can see that it's kind of weird, but half of the Wren Road, and it becomes Glen here, right of way is unincorporated, and the other half is annexed in, which just happened when this property annexed in. So technically, currently, county standards do apply for that road section outlined in red, which is abutting the subject property here. However, the city wants to annex that property. We've initiated that right of way wants to annex all of the unincorporated parts of Wren Road right of way so that city standards apply, so that those streets are built consistently. And so we are in the process of annexing that right of way. And once it is annexed, the city will have jurisdiction, and so city frontage standards will apply there. So it's kind of wonky, but the conditions of approval include both conditions that say, if this road section is unannexed for whatever reason, I can't personally imagine any reason that the county would deny the city's annexation, or it's not really that we're requesting it of them. I don't imagine a scenario where that annexation would be denied unless the Planning Commission and City Council, decided against that. But just in case, we need a condition of approval in there that says, if it's not annexed, here's what the county will require. But in the more likely instance that it is annexed, here's what the city's standards are. So all that to say, we have conditions of approval that account for both whether or not that portion is county versus city jurisdiction. Here's the very lengthy county conditions of approval there, and here's the city's a little easier to follow condition. Okay. Let's see. I think, yeah, we're just about here. So future street connections, we just need to make sure that the connectivity within and to the boundary of the site is providing those connections to existing, whether it's an existing street. We have Southeast Wren here coming and connecting to the existing portion of Wren, or new streets. We have Southeast C Street, which will be renamed, up in the north connecting to the easterly boundary, also having the utilities stub at the boundary line. We have a northern facing connection here. First Avenue comes down to the south connecting on Hinman, and of course we're connecting to River Mill Road and Kern Creek Road following through on both sides. Oh, and then lastly, the Southeast A Street here, I'll just note there's an exhibit in the report also that shows the alignment of this being just slightly off from the Valley View Drive that was approved. And so one of the conditions of approval does make sure, and that was also, it sounds like, just an accidental error. The intention is for that to align directly, but just to be sure, a condition of approval does state that they'll need to make sure that the center line is aligned with the center line of Valley View Drive, which has already been approved for over here. Okay, before we get to recommended conditions, there was testimony received before the Planning Commission's hearing from a property owner. I'll just read it. I think I have to read it since we're virtual. So, dear Chairman Wheeler, I am a landowner sharing the northern border of this development. I recently purchased this property and my son inhabits it. We are concerned about the size of the subdivision. I am particularly concerned about its impact on me as well as the town and its infrastructure. I believe this is a multi-part development which will change the character of this town forever and bring enormous pressures on everything. Should this project get the green light, I would like to include things that would make it less impactful for me. They include a swale across the back of the lots and common area numbers 87 to 95 and across the road to the stormwater facility to prevent any kind of runoff on my land. That swale should be a minimum of 8 feet in width and have a center depth of 10 inches, and those dimensions be written up in the property deeds to discourage future property owners from filling it in. Current zoning regulations allow accessory buildings to be situated right on the property line. I would ask that there be no structures or storage of any kind in this area, and again, that this be part of the deed. I would request that the homeowners association put 8-foot-high solid fencing along this boundary and be required to maintain it. Lastly, I would like homes on lots 87 to 91 to be single level to avoid blocking my view of the mountains to the east, and again, to be written in the deed. I'm including a drawing of the area of concern for the current plan. I hope it makes things more clear than my words. If there is any need to contact me, I can be reached at his phone number or through this email address. I hope to connect successfully to the Zoom call as well. I was once on the planning commission of the small town I lived in Vermont, so I appreciate the pressures these developments bring for both the town and the people on the board. I never experienced this scope and magnitude, fortunately. I have been involved with this property at 29640 Southeast Eagle Creek Road and Estacada for a number of years, very much enjoying the atmosphere at the local coffee shop, grocery, and hardware store. Good luck and thank you for your attention. Bill Magnus. So here is the sort of diagram that he submitted along with that, showing where he would propose for the swale to be at the back of these properties, 95 all the way down to 87, which are on the proposed Southeast C Street. And just some notes on the proposal or on his requests. The applicants submitted a downstream or a stormwater report that the city engineer has already, a preliminary report that the city engineer has already approved. And a condition of their plat approval will be that they must have an approved downstream analysis and stormwater report that already ensures that no stormwater runoff will be directed to adjacent properties. So that concern is already accounted for, although not in the form of a swale across the back of the lots. And I think the applicant will be able to speak a little bit more to that, as they did in the Planning Commission hearing. And then also just bringing up the concern. I am not an expert on the legal side of these, but I believe that the city could be liable to lawsuits if it imposed any of the requested restrictions in yellow here, just because every other property owner in a given zone gets to enjoy the property rights that are laid out, the adopted, that are laid out and encompassed in the adopted standards and requirements of that zone. And so there are likely to be legal challenges, and in the city being the one to impose those restrictions just to specific properties in a zone without adopting changes to the entire zone itself. That said, in the Planning Commission hearing, the applicant did, during their discussion with the Planning Commission, did state that they would be interested in working with this particular property owner on, coming to an agreement between private parties, which is totally fine, right? It just couldn't be the city making that agreement for the private party, if that makes sense. Okay, and I think we're here at the recommended conditions of approval, which there are 61 of, and so I'm not going to read them all, but they ensure that the streets and sidewalks are built to city standards or county standards if applicable. Utilities are provided to each new lot. There's capacity to serve each new lot. The storm runoff will not negatively impact adjacent or downstream properties. Future connections for those streets and utilities are provided at the site boundary. The traffic study recommendations be provided, and that the fire district's requirements are met. So with that, here are just a few motion options. This is not an exhaustive list, and I'll take any questions that the council might have.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there any questions for Taylor before we move on?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Taylor, do you know off the top of your head how many approved single family homes we're up to now?
Well, it depends on exactly what question you're asking. The
How
number
many
Bill
be approved?
for like subdivision, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can actually, yes, I can pull that up pretty quickly.
It's okay if you don't have it off the top of your head. I was just kind of curious. It's always nice to kind of keep track of how many homes we're approving over time. It just feels like I don't know, I feel like I've approved 800 since I started 2 years ago.
Yep. So starting with, I'm going to start with Faraday Hills. Faraday Hills was approved in February of 2020, and that was 404 lots. Next was Valley View Estates, approved for 64 lots in April of 2020. In March of 2021, okay, so just, yes, Kern Creek Estates Phase 2 was 43 lots. And then this is 111 single family lots. And then the proposed, they're talking about 69 apartments included in Eagle Ridge Phase 1.
So that's 622 if you count these without the apartments, and then that's then the 69 apartments.
And that's starting at the beginning of 2020. Perfect. That's a number that I definitely wanted to know. So thank you, Taylor. I appreciate you giving us that.
Okay. Any, Joel?
I have several questions. Kind of first one piggybacking off of Katie's question. Of those 622 homes that have been approved, how many have actually had the certificate of occupancy provided, and how many still remain?
Yeah, that is another question that I think I can pull up pretty quickly here.
Council, we have been sending that out monthly to the council, the certificate of occupancy figures. So.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that report come out. I'll dig for it to make sure I'm not missing it, but I don't think I've seen it. So.
Yeah, I have, like, the number that I have is building permits. So, and I don't know if I would be able to say, you know, I have the number of building permits that were approved last year, but I wouldn't be able to say, you know, how many of these were included in those specific subdivisions that I just mentioned, you know, so I don't know.
I'm looking for just general numbers to kind of get an idea of how many are outstanding, what we're looking at. So, okay, I have a few other questions here. Have we talked to the sheriff's department to see what their capacity is currently at this point? While we have the sheriff coverage, do we have the actual capacity of the sheriff's office to add so many more homes right now and still have good, adequate coverage from what the contract that our city is currently providing right now?
Yeah, no. So similar to with schools, I think this came up. If it wasn't a recent council meeting, then it was a recent planning commission meeting. But similar to with school capacity statements, we require capacity statements at the annexation stage of you know, application. But for a subdivision application, it is assumed that the city is already is already planning, you know, we've zoned for that area to be populated with that density of use. And so we needed the capacity statement at the annexation stage. So no, we do not get capacity statements at the subdivision stage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, definitely like to see what they have to say. Also, when the sewer capacity is done, is that like taken into consideration of all the other subdivisions, and then this is kind of like added on to that capacity already, or is this, so it's kind of like they're looking forward on it? Okay. Yes. I kind of figured, I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Also, the big one I have here is the River Mill Road. The fact that the county is not requiring that to have a four-way stop really seriously concerns me, because you know there's going to be a large amount of traffic that wants to cross that road, and I can see that being a dangerous area. So my question, first of all, is how far does the county own into our city there, that's the Eagle Creek Road of that, and is it within our capabilities to possibly annex up to and past River Mill Road so we can put city requirements if there may be a four-way stop or something there to make sure that's safe?
Yeah, so we are actually, you all approved the annexation of Eagle Creek Road. However, we're in the process of getting that recorded, which has been complicated with the Department of Revenue. But it is already technically annexed. However, with that level of classification, it's a higher street classification than just a local road like Wren Road, for example, which we were just talking about. So Eagle Creek Road, we have to go through a separate process of transferring the jurisdiction, which would be great because then it would be under the city's jurisdiction, and we would apply our frontage improvements, which I will note are not that different, although maybe we could, yeah, like you mentioned, have a four-way stop there if that's what the city wanted to do. But yeah, getting a roadway transferred, when you transfer the jurisdiction, you're taking over the maintenance authority. And so you're taking on essentially this burden of maintaining this road. And so you want to do those, the city wants to do those transfers only when the county can pay us to take the road. And the last time we talked about it, which is when we were annexing the right of way, the county did not have the budget to pay us for taking over the maintenance of Eagle Creek. I'm not sure if that will change this year, or Denise, if you have any updated knowledge around that.
Yeah, I don't. I just know we didn't want to be able to have to pay for the maintenance of the highway right out there because it's a high maintenance road. And if we take jurisdiction, then we are responsible for the maintenance on that.
What routes would we have to try to work with the county or something if we don't want to take over jurisdiction of that road to get them to put a four-way stop there? Because like I said, we all know how hard it is to turn on that road as it is now. Imagine adding 120 homes and apartments and everything else that may be coming up from work off of the highway there, trying to cross into that. That's just asking for an accident, especially because that's a blind corner in some cases as well. So I see that being a serious issue if and plus a major traffic increase on there. If we should probably be planning for that now.
Yeah, so they are requiring the turn lanes in all directions at that intersection. So that will help because at least the people turning having a separate lane to go into, whether they're turning coming from Estacada or going to Estacada, both north and south, they will have turn lanes to make that, which will be good. But as far as working with the county, yeah, it's classified. I'm not sure what they're classifying at it now, but they are recommending also the rate to be decreased to 35 instead of, I think it's 40 now.
It's 45.
45.
Well, at least that's what the comments say.
Yeah. It's 45 all the way from Eagle Creek now to there. There's no 55 on it anymore, but they're looking at decreasing that to 35. But we can certainly talk to the county about a stop there and what their road classification is and if that would be warranted. I mean, they put one at Wildcat, so we know that they allow them on that road. So.
Mm-hmm.
And we can probably bring this back at a later date to the council.
Yeah. It's going to be years before this subdivision gets completely. Yeah, we can definitely work with them during this time and do that.
Yeah, I just definitely want to make sure that that's somewhere in there that we know we're not going to be approving something and 2 years down the road we're going to be kicking ourselves because suddenly there's a huge subdivision and people are crossing the road and getting sideswiped and stuff. So same reason why they put the four-way stop at Wildcat. So
okay. All right. Justin, you have a question?
Yeah, and I might have missed this, or maybe it's not, or maybe it's a future plan. But when I was looking at the plans and stuff, are there sidewalks that people can then reach the schools from that far out, or will there be?
That's a great question. Let's see.
I only ask because I know that the schools are pretty adamant when those kind of locations come in and distance and buses and et cetera.
There are sidewalks required on all the streets, but I think there'll be a gap because it's
they don't
starts.
Because they don't own what tax lot is it? They don't own the property that's actually right at the corner of or that property is not included in this application.
Is there things that the city can do to build a sidewalk there? I just know it's a huge expense on the school to then try to bus children from there if they don't have a safe route to school and all that. I'm just trying to think ahead. That's all. That's all I had.
And I think I have answers to piggyback off of what Counselor Gates was just saying. Because I used to live in tax lot or in the 32020 Southeast Ren. So like that one island of green space that's going to be left over after the subdivision's complete. I grew up in that house. So old stomping grounds. I believe that there was an easement or some right of way actually at one of the tax lots. I'm trying to pull up the map on my phone. I apologize. I have to bring up all of my agendas on my smartphone. But right across from tax lot 1901 on Hinman, I believe that there was some sort of a walking path or an easement on one of the properties. Oh, I think you can almost see it. One of the properties is like a triangle if you look at it, and there's like a road. It looks like a road that goes halfway up that triangle. Are you looking at it, Taylor? You see what I'm talking about? I think there's actually like some public right of way right there. If it's possible to put a sidewalk in, you could almost connect those two subdivisions to Campanella Estates, which is just on the other side of that.
Yeah, so I'm seeing what you're talking about. I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah.
Here, I think.
So why does that stop there? But I feel like one of these lots over here actually had a walkway that went from Hinman all the way to what is now Campanella. Oh, but that's someone's backyard now. That doesn't connect to the field anymore.
Right.
Shows how old I am.
Yeah.
I mean, I like what Counselor Gates was saying though, because he's right. The school district has, I mean, we're trying to go back and fix the mistakes of the 70s when they didn't put sidewalks in the, in the areas around the schools. And now we've got the safe routes to schools issue where we have to pay for buses to get kids to school when they live within a mile of the school. And that's a problem because we're spending money that we wouldn't otherwise have to spend. Yeah. So I like where he was going with that, but I don't know if that would actually be easy or feasible to do.
Right.
Jerry.
Taylor, can you pull that last picture that you had back up?
Oh, yeah. Can you see it?
Yeah, okay, so looking at the Campanella Estates down there, so on Southeast Hinman, right there at the H in Hinman, the next one up.
Here.
So that on that H, if you follow that property line down, is that part of this?
No.
That's not part of this development?
Where we're looking at is this tax lot and the 3 north of it, and then.
Okay, so what development is that? Is that not a development that south? I guess was that south of Hinman right there? That white area right there, yeah.
The white area is not proposed for anything. It's not even annexed, which is why it's good as white.
Oh, that's too bad, because I see that down in the Campanella Estates where that property line goes down to. It looks like there's one of those walking easements right there.
Mm-hmm.
And if that would be very useful if that could connect, but if that's not a development, then it doesn't matter. Thank you.
Yeah, and we don't have the right to put sidewalks down Eagle Creek Road, and it probably wouldn't be the safest one, would it? Because that's the only direct route I can see looking at maps myself here from overhead.
So I was just looking at Google Maps, and that area is just a little over a mile away from the school. So they would be required to do buses to that anyway.
Okay.
Nice. Okay.
A lot farther than
All right. Well, that takes care of that. All right, let's get back on the main screen. Any more questions?
One quick question.
Joe?
Earlier, Charity had mentioned that the elementary schools are already looking at capacity issues. And so my concern is if we're adding a whole bunch more homes and we're already looking at capacity issues, what's that going to do to our schools? Can we actually take those if they're having to look at renting off buildings in order to put kids in?
So the school has already noticed us that they have capacity. I don't know how they can say that when they're saying not, but we have the letters from them during the annexation. And they are also sent, they're aware of these so they can respond to these public hearings as we go. But, you know, I've talked to Ryan a lot and they are welcoming because their capacity at the grade school levels is full, but their high school has, you know, 300 to 400 kids that they could have at the high school level still. So, you know, they are encouraging the growth. They want the growth.
Yeah, but obviously there's an issue if they're at capacity on the elementary. And I have a feeling it's not all going to be high school kids coming in on 110, especially with apartments and things. It's probably going to be a lot of elementary kids coming in. So I don't know.
Yeah, they would have to be here to
Address that.
yeah, address that. Yeah.
Did we invite them in for a special conversation to ask them these questions? I mean, it's hard to make a good decision if we don't have that information and these questions answered.
Well, we have a liaison to the school district. Jerry, is that something you might be able to bring up at one of their school board meetings?
Yeah, so I'll make a note of that and I'll reach out to Ryan Carpenter and see. I do know that they've just been getting hit more and more with an influx of elementary age students. So, I mean, when you're talking about developments in the future, I mean, they don't have a crystal ball, so they can't say, well, I know for sure we can accommodate high school students and not elementary. So I'll reach out to him and see, you know, more specifics as to what they can accommodate. I mean, we are talking about adding portables for elementary school right now for next year. So we'll see. So I'll reach out.
Thank you. Katie, go ahead, and then Paul.
2 years ago when I joined the council, we had a goal to be closer to our school district, and we actually had 2 joint meetings planned per year, one in the spring and one in the fall, where we were going to meet as a city council and school board jointly. And that happened, I think, once or twice. No, I think twice, once at City Hall and once at the high school. I was wondering whatever happened to those and if we could maybe start those again, because it does sound like we might need to have a conversation, joint council and school board.
Well, Denise, what do you think of that?
Yeah, we could definitely have a discussion with them and get back into those. I have tried a couple times, but they've said they've been too busy to meet. So
I have also done that. So we've been down this path, but we can urge it a little bit more with the growth that we're seeing. And I think we all need to get at the same table. So that's a good idea, Katie.
Well, then I guess I'll just close my thoughts with there is an election right now for the school board. And if you believe that your school board member should be talking to your city council on a more regular basis, maybe you should reach out to the representatives on your school board to encourage that conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Paul, go ahead.
I was just going to chime in and echo what Taylor had said about the sheriff, that the sheriff was approached before the annexation or as part of the annexation. And I believe she'd said that the school board was, or the school was as well too. So prior to the annexation, they were made aware of the growth that was happening. So from that aspect, they would be aware of what the subdivisions coming in as well too by default.
That's true. Thank you, Paul. Is that it for the questions? Can we move along on this one? All right, I'm not seeing any more, so thank you. Is there any correspondence regarding this application with the people, Taylor, before I go any further with the?
None in addition, none beyond the testimony. Yeah.
Okay, great. I will now read a statement. Statement about the evidence presented at the hearing. An issue which may be the basis for the appeal to LUBA must be raised prior to the close of the recorded at the final eventuary hearing on this specific application. Such issue shall be raised with sufficient specificity so as to afford LUBA and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure of an issue to be raised at the hearing or in person or by letter, or a failure to provide sufficient specificity to afford LUBA and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to LUBA on that issue. Okay, would the applicant like to come forward, Taylor? Are they here? Okay.
Yeah, I saw, yep, it looks like all three of them or their party, Anne Marie and Brett Grantham and Buck Smith.
Okay, do they have one that wants to speak for them?
I want to talk, but
I brought all of them in.
Okay, great. Would any of them like to speak on this, or shall we just move along?
I'll say something.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
My name is Anne Marie Skinner. I work with PBS Engineering, business address of 4412 South Corbett Avenue, Portland. And I would just, there isn't a lot to add because Taylor did a magnificent job, very comprehensive of explaining the entire development. So don't want to waste any time going back over things that have already been stated. I would reiterate a couple of things. One is regarding annexation and impacts to various agencies and public utilities, and just agreeing with Taylor and Denise and re-emphasizing again that the impacts to the schools and the sheriff's office and the fire department and police and sewer and water are all investigated and confirmed at the time of annexation. And if those agencies feel that it will have a negative impact and they aren't able to serve the property being annexed, then the annexation is their time to say such. Once it has been annexed, again, it is assumed that all of those agencies have the capacity to service the property for which the city has annexed in the zone. And in this case, the zone is NCR, CMU, and R1, or NCR and CMU, excuse me. I know that Mr. Grantham has been in contact with the individual, Bill Mangus, who wrote the letter and is addressing his concerns. We have worked diligently with staff to make sure that this preliminary plat meets all of the requirements of the city's code. That includes the street standards, the sewer, the water, and the stormwater. And per the conditions of approval, everything that can be met at this point has been met, and the conditions of approval ensure that the final construction drawings will meet all of the city standards. And I think that's it. Brett, or Buck, do you have anything to add about anything that was said?
I think the only thing I'd like to add is in regards to the neighbor to the north that has a little bit concerns about the stormwater running onto their property. Based on the way that we've designed the stormwater system and the grading on site, there's going to be no net increase in any additional runoff that's going to go on the site, and in future phases, additional portions of the property on the other side of the property line will be developed, but on those upstream, there will be a detention pond located adjacent to their property, so that should take care of any runoff that would head towards the direction of their property. In regards to their, I think they mentioned they wanted possibly like an 8-foot solid fence. I believe the city requires anything, I believe, over 7 feet to be structurally designed. And again, our clients spoken with this individual, and I believe he will be willing to kind of work with them to decide what fencing is best for his property and for this development.
Great, thank you. All right. Well, we thank you for everything that you've said. Is there any questions from the counselors to the applicant at this point? No?
Mayor, I have a response from Ryan Carpenter about the school issue.
Oh, good, good. Why don't you put him in on it?
He says, we are at capacity at River Mill. We will need portables, but we want more kids. We approve of all growth. What we need is for the community to vote for a bond so we can expand capacity. Happy to come talk at next meeting if you need me to. So I told him I'd take him up on that. I don't know if it'll be in the next meeting, but yeah, so they're in favor of all growth, so.
Great, great. All right. Well, I guess that answers that question. Now, are there any speakers out there that wish to speak on this? Sadie, nobody that's speaking to this exact thing. Speaker
If
request.
anybody in the audience wishes to speak, can you use the raise hand function and I'll pull you in?
Nobody there? Okay, great. Does the staff have any applicant questions at this time to add, or are we good with everything?
I don't have
Okay,
it to add. Yeah.
great. At this time, I will now close the public hearing. I will now reopen the Estacada City Council meeting and ask for a motion to approve with the conditions for deny the application. Is there, okay, so we're gonna back into the City Council meeting. Can you put the motions up again? I mean, there was 3 of them there. I want to make sure it's clear as to what we're. Okay, there are the 3 motions. Would anybody like to make a motion as to one of those, and we'll go from there? I can't really see your hands while we have this up, so.
I'd like to speak, Mayor.
What's that?
I'd like to speak.
Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to borrow the soapbox for a minute before I made the motion, but I hope everybody in Estacada who's watching this meeting understands that we as the city council cannot deny a subdivision simply because we do not like subdivisions. I want everyone to know my childhood is dying a little bit today because these are my stomping grounds. I spoke earlier about how I grew up in that house that's going to be that little island right now. And all of those fields are fields that I rode my horse in when I was a kid. And it's hurting me to see that this is all going to be single family homes in a few short years. So I just want everybody to understand sort of the positions that we're in as city council. And that being said, I move to recommend approval with the conditions recommended by the Planning Commission.
Okay. And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a first and second. All those in favor say aye. Actually, no, Sadie, do a roll call.
Okay. Counselor Dunsmuir.
Aye.
Counselor Gates.
Aye.
Counselor Hughes.
Aye.
Counselor Lidkey.
No.
Counselor Strobel.
Aye.
Counselor Tenbush.
Aye.
Mayor Drinkwine.
Aye.
Great. Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you, Sadie. Okay, moving along. All right.
Taylor, can you stop sharing your screen? There you go.
Yeah, we got it. Thank you. All right. Now we're at council business. So first on council business, we have total maximum daily load of the TMDL update. And I will hand that to Denise, I'm hearing.
Actually, I'm going to.
Melanie is going to.
Okay, Melanie, you're going to give it to us. All right.
Going to talk about that. All right. I'm going to share my screen, which I practiced earlier. So I'm sure I can do it. Okay. And my computer is running a little bit slow, so it's going to take a second just to load up here. But this report is really for information only. It's in response to the DEQ's letter that was sent to City Council, and then Councilor Dunsmuir asked for more information on our existing TMDL plan, when it began, where it stands currently, and when it will be in compliance. I want this to, there we go. And so I appreciate those questions actually, because I may not have read that the letter carefully enough, because when I got it, I thought, well, what are we getting this letter for? We already have mercury in our TMDL plan. So I thought it was just redundant. However, they are making a change. Let me get the slideshow going here. So I just want to, I appreciate the question, and it's prepared me a little bit better rather than in a couple of months going, oh, this does apply to us. And I do have to make some changes. So I just want to talk about our implementation plan. Our original plan was drawn up in 2009. I was pretty new here, and a gal from DEQ who was a representative at that time helped us to put it together. And then we are required to send in a little update letter every year to DEQ, and then to update the plan actually every 5 years. So we did an update in 2014, and then we did an update in 2019. As far as the updates, it's not really strict. Like, we don't have a stormwater quality management plan because our population is so small. So that's why I was kind of able to take this on, because it wasn't extremely technical. As our population grows, we might need to hand this over to Curran McLeod to help us to make sure that we're in compliance. But this will kind of give you an idea of where we're at with it right now. So TMDL stands for total maximum daily load, and it's talking about the pollutants that we allow to get into the Clackamas River. The DEQ has created a total maximum daily load for all the watersheds in the Willamette Basin. And since we're on the Clackamas River, that applies to us. Their first one for the Willamette Basin came out in 2006. And then, as you saw, our first plan was in 2009. And we are a designated management agency because we have the city of Estacada has responsibility for improving water quality in the Willamette River Basin, which the Clackamas River runs to. And so we're required to develop a plan to reduce pollutants that enter streams and then the river within the city as a result of activities that we can control, that we have jurisdiction over, and that we can make a difference with. So here's our three pollutants: temperature, bacteria, and mercury. Mercury is the one that's changing right now. Let's see. Uh-oh, I think I froze. There we go. Okay, so temperature can come I wrote too much on these slides. I know you're just supposed to do bullet points, but I put all this information on here in case you want to refer back to it. So I'll just kind of skip through it because you've listened to a lot tonight and my eyes are blurry. I'm guessing yours might be too. But temperature can come from our wastewater plant. But because the effluent that we have coming out of the plant is so small compared to the volume of the river, it doesn't make a big impact. And then solar radiation, the trees, because we have a good tree coverage along the banks of the Clackamas, that helps. And then the creeks that run mostly, the highest flows during the winter when there's not as much solar radiation to impact that. The sun's at a different angle and all. And we don't currently have any industrial users that return warmed water to the river. That would be a concern also. Bacteria, that would be our sanitary wastewater plant, our wastewater treatment plant. And sorry, I keep moving that arrow. They are regulated through our NPDES permit. So that is really taken care of. That's called point pollution. It comes from a certain point, comes from our wastewater plant. And a lot of what the activities that we do is from stormwater runoff, which is called non-point because it's coming from everywhere. And bacteria also, so in addition to the wastewater plant, can come from wild and domestic animals with pet waste. That's why we see, not only is it not nice to step on pet waste, it also, as it washes to the storm drains or to the creeks, then it gets bacteria into the water, which is not helpful for having clean water. And then mercury generally comes from erosion. The mercury settles on the surface of the ground, and then as it gets mobilized through when people are grading or digging or moving the earth around. And so that's why we have erosion control, which I'm excited that I think the next thing you're going to talk about is another erosion control part of our ordinance, because DEQ monitors everything over an acre that people have to get a 1200C permit if they're going to be moving earth that's more than an acre. But this new ordinance that's coming up that you're going to take a look at will allow us to control more of what happens on smaller developments. So prevention strategies, I'm just going to kind of go through these really quick. This is all, and you can just read the TMDL if you're looking for some good reading material, because I included that. We maintain our existing utilities by videoing, repairing sewer line each year, which I think you're also going to hear about later, inflow and infiltration. You would think water that's running and whatever's running in that pipe would go out, but really what happens is the groundwater seeps in, and then it goes through our sewer plant, and we have to treat a whole bunch of water that was really just in the ground. So we use best management practices on any of the operations that we're doing. Sweeping, the guys sweep every week, and we clean catch basins. And then anytime anybody connects to the system or put stuff down storm drains that they're not supposed to, we pay attention to that to make sure that stops. And then our wastewater treatment plant meets the limits that are put on them. We do public outreach and involvement through our membership with Clackamas River water providers. We send out a city newsletter, which I haven't kept up on that so much in the past year. But we use social media and our website to educate and promote water conservation and prevention of contamination. And then, I don't know, I think they're all worn off now, but we did for a while, we had some stencils out there that were pretty cool to remind people not to put stuff down the storm drains. And we had some little round stickers that were put on the sidewalk too. And then for construction sites, stormwater control, it needs to be permitted if it's a large development, and then Public Works and Code Enforcement monitor the individual construction sites. So the changes that are happening, Estacada was named as a designated management agency in the new Willamette Basin Mercury TMDL, which is an update to their 2006 plan. And so our existing TMDL plan, which does address mercury, but will need to be revised to include the new reduction requirements. Right now, we're required to use best practices to try to prevent mercury from getting to the water. This new one doesn't, it's more strict, and I'm going to be attending a class about it, but it will require us to somehow track that and make sure that we're reducing the amount of mercury that is getting to the water. So that's why you received the letter. Thank you, Katie, for asking, so that I would pay attention before that meeting came up, and I wouldn't go to the meeting and go, oh my gosh, surprise. But we will be required to update our TMDL plan for mercury by September 3rd, 2022. In addition to our regular annual reports, we have one due this summer, and then a 5-year update. I can't remember when that date is. I think it's in 2023. And then staff will attend workshops provided by DEQ to learn about the new requirements and what we need to do. And like I said, Kerr McLeod is able to assist as needed to help us, as our population grows and as requirements become more strict, we will need their help. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. I did include an email in the packet that I received from when I reached out to DEQ to kind of check on this, and it just kind of said what's going to happen. And then I thought I had a date. I think I put it in the staff report that I will be attending a little workshop in mid-May, and they'll talk to us about how this is going to be incorporated. And this change they're looking for, really the only change we'll have to make is for mercury. And then our regular update will be able to update on more. So any questions? Okay, well, thank you for your support of this, because I think it gets complicated, and it gets, sometimes it's annoying because I feel like I'm just guessing when I'm filling out this matrix about what we've done. But really, when you look at it over time, the stuff that we've been able to do, and like the ordinance you'll look at, and the contract you're looking at tonight to do I&I work, it all plays into it. This actually is a picture of the stencil that the Arts Commission, somebody on the Arts Commission designed this for us. And the guys went around and one summer put these as well as some other designs out. So we'll have to get them out again, get them doing some painting around our storm drains. But if you don't have any more questions, I will let you go on, but feel free to email us anytime and we appreciate that.
I appreciate that, Melanie. Thank you for everything you do.
You are welcome. I will stop sharing. Okay, there we go. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, that was interesting. Next on our list, we have the ordinance 2021-003, an ordinance of the city of Estacada, adding chapters 15.25 erosion control to the Estacada Municipal Code. So Denise, I will let you speak to this.
I think Sadie did she did most of the work on this, but this is just to follow up with some of the things Melanie said that the Public Works has been wanting for years to get something in the code about those excavation areas that are less than 1 acre. And so Sadie did some work on researching other communities and came up with this ordinance that will help us show the state that we are trying to comply with this mercury, the new mercury testing and all that. So, and we basically do this. Even though it wasn't in our code, we do make people that are excavating have erosion control, but this now gets it in the code so they can see that they're going to have to do that and kind of backs up our Public Works for going out there and inspecting and making that happen.
Okay. So you need a motion on this tonight for this erosion control? Is that
We
right?
will hear it again. We'll see it at 2 meetings. Tonight is the first time, and if we can have a motion and a second and approval, and then we'll bring it back to you at the next meeting for final approval.
Okay, great. You've heard this. Katie, is there something you want to say before we move on?
No, I was just going to move to approve.
Okay. Katie's put a motion and there's a second.
Yep.
So all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Was that Joel that seconded that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now the traffic study scoping standards. And who's wanting to speak to that?
That'll be me again, as if
okay.
you've all heard enough from me tonight. So yeah, I'll just give this a brief description. Subdivision applications and some other types of land use applications are required to include traffic or transportation impact studies or transportation impact assessment. So it's sometimes called a TIS or a TIA. And that shows us that, their proposal can be accommodated by our existing or planned transportation system. Those studies in other jurisdictions, not all other jurisdictions, but many other jurisdictions have specific scoping standards that they require every applicant that's doing a TIS or a TIA has to include these, if it's this number of lots, then you have to, your scope has to include at least a half mile from such and such type of street, right? That type of standards and parameters for the area that you're going to have them study or the types of intersections that you'll require them to do traffic counts at. So scoping standards is broad and can include a lot of different things. We are running into this issue, as you know, there are a lot of development proposals coming through, and in the past year or so, we've gotten several inquiries from traffic engineers and transportation analysts who are doing these studies for whatever developer they're working with, and they want to know what are the city's requirements for, what are our standards for the scoping of their studies. Well, we don't have any written into our code. We have something very vague written into our code. And so I'll defer those questions to the city engineer, who wants to punt that back to, oh, well, what's in the city code? Well, we don't have it in the code. Okay, well, let's look at what the county does, but the county's code isn't really our code. And so, we're not under their jurisdiction. And so this is a request for the council to consider initiating a code amendment to establish transportation impact study scoping standard, or they could just be standards, similar to what exists in other jurisdictions. The exhibit that I included here is what the city of Canby has in their code. That is what our county planner, Ben Blessing, pointed to when we were having these discussions back and forth about what to do for these specific developments. Well, let's look at what other jurisdictions do, right? And similarly sized jurisdictions. And so looking at Canby's code, it is much more in depth and detailed than our code is about what should be required in a traffic study. So that type of amendment, a code amendment, is a legislative decision. And so that proposal must be initiated either by the Planning Commission or the City Council. So this is a request from staff based on what we're noticing going on, and we're noticing like, wow, not only are we spending a lot of staff time per kind of on a case-by-case basis, but there could be issues associated with, what if this specific development gets held to these scoping standards, but then the next development comes along and a different planning staff is working on it and they apply slightly different standards, and so concerns about consistency. So this is a request that the council consider initiating the code amendment to establish code around traffic impact study standards. And so that process would be, if the council decides to initiate that code amendment, that would be you giving the direction to staff to write up the report, gather the findings that are relevant and responses to the approval criteria that we need in order to pass a code amendment, bring that to the Planning Commission for the first public hearing, and then bring that back to you for the final decision. So that is it in a nutshell, and I can go into more detail maybe if you have questions.
No, I think you pretty well described it the way it is. It's an important thing. I see the importance in this. I hope all of you do as well. But I'll ask, how do you all feel about this? I mean, is that something you think we should proceed with and giving council or the city direction to pursue this? Yeah, I thought you might see it that way. Yeah, definitely. Okay. I'm seeing a positive all the way around on that one. So yes, I would definitely recommend that we pursue this. So do you need a vote on this, or is this something you can go on just consensus?
I think consensus is fine. Sadie will note that there was consensus of the council to proceed with the ordinance
Good,
changes.
good. We appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so last thing on the council business, we have the Downtown Estacada Commission appointments.
Sadie, can you bring Matt in case there's any questions?
Sure.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mayor. Sorry.
Okay, and we have, according to what I know, 2 positions open, is that right? And 2 applicants? So that's what I'm hearing, and I think everybody's on board. They've all read the applicants' statements on their forms. You all feel comfortable with that? So we're good with that. So we will make the appointments for the 2 open positions. Now the rest of that is, one is a longer term and one is a shorter term. Is that what I'm getting out of that?
Yeah, one of the terms ends this December 31st of this year, and then one term ends December 31st, 2022.
Okay. All right. Is this something the council should vote on, or is this something? Okay.
An appointment then with consensus.
Okay, so you've heard the 2 terms, and you know the 2 applicants. Who do you feel should represent the longer term and the shorter term?
I think Bennett Johnson would do well with her interactions recently and input into the into the council to sit in a longer position. And then to have the Taylor Gibson in the shorter position. But Bennett's has made such an effort already as it is to already improve the city by sharing with us. I think she would have a good impact over some time.
Okay. I will go to Charity next. I'm just going to go through the line and see how many are on the same.
Thanks. Yeah, I always appreciate it when Bennett comes on. I'd actually love to see Bennett in the future, do something like city council or something huge. So with that said, I kind of like to see Taylor take the longer position. And I know Bennett has a ton of experience, and I'd like to see her kind of branch out a little bit more and do something that's going to be, more city council related, if that's something she'd want to do in the future, just because she does have a ton of experience and has a lot of longevity in our community.
Sure.
So that's where I stand. Yeah.
Okay. Paul?
I could honestly go either way on this. I think they're both excellent candidates. I will back Joel up on the initial recommendation, though.
Okay, great. Katie?
So the Downtown Estacada Commission is the group that is tasked with a lot of event planning that occurs downtown. Both of these candidates are stakeholders in downtown. The only reason I am making the recommendation I am making is because I have personally experienced the comments made by one of the applicants whenever we intend to shut down a street to promote an event. And because of those comments that I have heard in the past, I would like to recommend that Taylor Gibson take the longer of the terms and that Bennett Johnson have the shorter term.
Okay. Hey, Jerry?
Katie pretty much said what I was going to say. I agree. Taylor, both candidates, Taylor's going to make a lasting impact in downtown core of Estacada. I truly believe her business is going to be successful. The two businesses in that building, Bennett and her husband and their company has already made an impact in downtown Estacada. So, but because of the same reasoning that Katie said, I would have to say Taylor for the longer term and Bennett for the shorter term.
Okay, Justin?
I'm good with Taylor. That's fine. Seems like the consensus. Yeah, I'm good with Taylor.
Okay. And on my part, I would have to say Bennett for the longer and Taylor for the shorter, only because from what I understand, isn't Julie Cooper from that same building on the same committee in that store? Isn't she part of the economic? Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So they already have one representation from that same storefront. It seems that we should be thinking about spreading that out, being as Bennett's been in the downtown core for a very long time and been a major part of everything that we've done in this city up till now. So that's my preference, but I guess it's 3 against 4. So
4-3.
Yeah. So Taylor will take the longer and Bennett will take the shorter.
Okay.
We need a motion.
And Mayor, don't forget that you have an E before you move on.
I have an E.
Yeah, we.
Oh, that's right. I have an E.
I just
An
wanted to remind
add-on. That's right. Okay, Katie.
Okay.
Now your discussion time.
Well, are we moving on from the last one? Matt,
We are. We're done with the last one. It's done.
Okay. So I guess
real quick before we get started, congratulations, Taylor and Bennett. Congratulations on your appointments.
Yeah. Thank you. All
so so moving on to E, you guys know where I stand because we were all part of that same city council meeting where everybody else voted to remove that gate that I was very much vocally against because of the fact that we hadn't had a transportation impact study done or a traffic impact study done on Lawrence Road. That being said, you've now received correspondence from the neighbors that are going to be impacted on Lawrence. You've also heard public testimony from them. I think a number of them are still attendees in this meeting right now, which means that they have endured 2 hours of us talking just to hear what we might have to say. So obviously, if we are willing as a council to come back and revisit this, I am happy to bring this to the table, but I'm not going to bring it to the table if it's going to be dead in the water before it even arrives. So I just want to gauge where you guys are at and whether or not you're willing to revisit this one particular condition that we put on the subdivision a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, just before I call on you, Joel, I just want to say that I would like staff to have the ability to check into this and get a little bit more information to bring back to us at a later date before we put this to a vote or do anything like that. Is that okay, Denise? Is that something we could?
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone, and Taylor can correct me if I'm wrong. You guys made final decisions, and there was an appeal period for that decision that has passed. And so I don't know how realistic it is. I don't know how you would go back and change a decision that has been finalized unless the applicant came back for a modification of a subdivision. So Katie said you heard public testimony, but they really should have been at the meeting that the public testimony meant something to this, subdivision. But we can look into the legalities of doing this and talking to the applicant about options, but that's only if the council, like Katie said, if there's a majority of the council that wants us to do this, because it will be a lot of work.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm asking you, council, right now at this point to give your feeling on this before we pursue this to this extent. Joel, go ahead.
I still stand on my original decision, and some of the points that they brought up with the concerns of the of the road and stuff, that it actually gives them a benefit for the people that live further up on Lawrence Road. She was concerned about being blocked and everything. This would give them a second egress out of there, so that kind of negates that issue. And I spoke to some of the other people on that road there, and not everybody feels the same way of concerns as they do as well. And I still think for life safety, having an extra egress road is absolutely critical. So despite, and that does provide benefits to people on that road as a second egress in case that road's ever blocked. Now there's a second egress. So.
And thank you, Joel. Charity.
Yeah, no, I agree with Joel. I mean, that's kind of where we were at the last meeting. And so, kind of since we were, felt like we were, I don't want to say backed into a corner, but we had to make a decision. And I kind of feel like unless we go down like a really long road with legalities, kind of what Denise was speaking to, I kind of stand by what I was saying at the last meeting, and that we do have that second option of egress. So.
All right, great. Paul?
I was like Katie, a no vote on that one as well. I am very pro having the egress back there, having an opening. I'm open to a compromise to see what we could do, but I still feel like a study would have been good to have a study on that road done beforehand.
Okay. Katie, I know where you stand, so I'm going to move on to Jerry.
I don't mean to interrupt Mayor Drinkwine. I did want to add something to what Denise was saying earlier about there being an appeal period. We just made this decision in March. When did that appeal period end?
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm not sure the date, but it's a 15-day appeal period. Taylor?
15-day appeal period that is only available to people who participated. So either they're the applicant or they testified during the hearing. A lot of the people that we're now hearing from are people who didn't receive a notice because they're not within the required, I can't remember if it's 100 feet or 300 feet. They're not within the required noticing area that the state requires us to send out the notices to, but that of course are, impacted.
Yeah.
So
My
they know
only
they're
other
public hearing.
my only other concern is what a few of the speakers earlier this evening brought up, which is the fact that during the period of time that they were aware of the planning and they were aware of the hearings and all the processes, they were told that that gate was going to be there during that whole time. They were all told that gate's going to be there, that gate's going to be there, that gate's going to be there. And then it was kind of like without any formal notice, we just kind of took the gate away from them. And it sounds like a lot of them were really hoping for that gate. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah. The gate they're referring to is the gate from the first phase, and that gate is going to stay there. It's only the second phase that has this gate. So that gate, the staff was correct in what they were telling them about the gate for phase 1.
Yeah, but also, but no, sorry, but for phase 2, phase 2 was also proposing only emergency access. They were proposing a second fire gate. So these people who are not okay with connecting and opening up and paving out to Lawrence, they looked at the plans that we had posted and noticed, if they got the notices, then they looked at the plans and they said, oh, okay, there's going to be another fire gate. There's not going to be regular access. So they didn't find out until after the hearing that was changed.
Right.
Just to clarify.
Right.
And that's my main concern. Thank you, Taylor. I appreciate that clarification.
Okay, Jerry.
Okay, so just going off of memory, by the time this subdivision is done, there will be an exit point out to Deuce. There will be connection out to Deuce Road. Correct? No? That road isn't going to be connected, Paul?
That depends on the development of Curran Creek Estates Phase 6, connecting through Faraday Hills up to Deuce.
And then shortly after, there will be connection all the way down to Eagle Creek Road via the subdivision that we just approved tonight. So, I mean, because it's going to go, they're going to be able to get down to Cemetery because that's the main out right now. And then Cemetery is going to have a connection from there out to Eagle Creek Road.
Via Hinman. Yes.
Right. Okay. So, so either in the similar timeline, there will be, just thinking about this since the last meeting, since the last time we talked about this, in a very short amount of time, we're not talking, 2 years, there will be access out to Deuce and then access out to Eagle Creek Road and then access down through Cemetery Road down into town. So I don't foresee the, 172 cars exiting onto Lawrence Road. I think that would be the least likely route for most of these people to go. So, I mean, that's just what's going through my head, during their comments. And then, plus since the last time we talked about it to now, that's what has gone through my head, that those arteries will be open either in a similar timeline or shortly after. So
you're comfortable with your initial decision?
Yeah.
Okay. Justin?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I live up there, and when the fires hit and stuff, it does put some fear in your mind as to how you get out if say something was closed. So having an area to escape to temporarily, I mean, I'm never gonna utilize that unless it was an emergency anyway. So I don't necessarily have an issue with it, and I feel like we are a little too far along to change things, and it's gonna sorry, got bad allergies tonight. Yeah, I think we're just a little too far along to try to change this, or I mean, it's gonna happen anyway. I think maybe potentially we could, I don't know, I'm assuming all of Lawrence Road is in the city limits, which if it is, maybe we look at how we can improve it or is it not in the city limits?
It's not in the city limit, no.
Okay,
It's
so
also
maybe,
not our TSP.
okay, so, maybe there's a way that they can, or someone or city can talk to the right people to see what improvements can be done to that road. That's what I'd be doing if I lived down it.
Okay, so you're sticking with your original decision then? Is that
I
right?
didn't actually vote on the originally, but
Oh,
I'm
you
good
weren't
with-
here. That's right.
No, I
that's
don't think
right.
I was.
What would be your decision now then? Maybe that would help.
If the gates are open, I mean, yeah, like I said, in any kind of emergency situation right now, especially, and I agree with Jerry. I think that there's going to be plenty of exits anyway. I don't think every single vehicle is going to go through there when it's open. I just
Yeah.
don't foresee that. I mean, even myself, I would probably go out Hinman or Deuce once it's available.
Great. And then on my account, I'm holding with my original decision, which is to leave it as is. So I think you have your answer, staff. So we just stay the course as is. But we appreciate everybody's testimony and coming forward with their concerns. We did listen. So,
Staff will try to work with the county on seeing what we can do on Lawrence Road.
good. That'd be good. That'd be a good alternative
Yes.
there.
Hey,
Joel, do you have one more question before? we
yeah,
go?
yeah. Don't we have a new water line eventually going to be going down Lawrence Road? That we putting in when we put that upper pump station in? Because if that's the case, then won't that require some rework to be done on the road as it is?
It's going down Lawrence Road, but only to where it's it's not at that part of Lawrence Road. It's not going all the way down Lawrence Road. It's gonna stop before those curves.
Okay, it'll turn and goes up that road anyways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a big portion of Lawrence Road that might have to be repaved anyways because tearing it up because of water lines and etc. Okay, so yeah, there's already something that's planned there to help with part of that. Looks like.
Okay. All right, I think we've finished with that discussion. Moving along to the next citizen and community group comments. Do we have anybody in the hold?
I don't see anybody with their hand raised.
Okay, great, thank you. Now we're at mayor and council reports and comments. The last one, Joe, I'll hit you first.
All right, so it's been a crazy year already, and I've, as a counselor, I've had a lot to learn and a lot to look over and kind of see between seeing into other committees and seeing how the council is and kind of see how things are going on here. So I've been watching the people of the community, and I've been seeing a lot of trends and the actions of those around me, and it kind of saddens me a little bit what I'm seeing. So when people first came to America, they understood that if we didn't unify everything like together, everything would fail. I mean, they depended on each other from the very get-go. And people came here dreaming of like a fresh start, they came from a tyrannical government that was over taxation without representation. They wanted to have the opportunity to grasp those God-given rights, and so they built a document based upon those desires of the people, which is basically the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So and they built it based upon watching the failures of previous governments. And so that document means a lot to me, but the portion of what I'm trying to get across here is that they believe that every man should have an equal rights under the Constitution. That means that there's no one's favored above another. And as I'm looking over the landscape of not just our city, but of our county, our state, our national government, that is so far from what the original intention of our Constitution is. The division that's come in our people, in our country, and even into our own family's home sometimes is just insane. In our country, if you want to succeed, you have the opportunity to work your way up. Does that mean some person have to work harder than others? Yes. Does that mean that some people have it easier? Yes. But you still have the same opportunity to work and to grow into something. And I've seen it time and time again. What I really want to get across here is that when people have come together in our country, whether that had been an attack on Pearl Harbor, whether that had been a 9/11, or whether it had been in our own community, a massive fire that threatened to burn our city down where people lost homes. Thank God no one lost their lives. But to see people come together after that and what can be accomplished by unity, people coming and putting their differences aside for a short period and coming together and finding that common ground to achieve a goal. That is what built America. That is what made America successful and made America great. So when we're going through, not as a city council, but I'm speaking to the community here as well, we're so quick to divide ourselves by posting something online or by arguing about trivial things that we've missed the opportunities we have to be great as a community and as a people of the United States, to really unify and make some things great, because we bicker over the smallest things. So this is me pleading to our local community, because sometimes the smallest acts grow to the biggest changes, such as a small group of people signing a document that said to the England that we're no longer going to follow your tyrannical government. We're going to establish our own, and we're declaring independence. And that motivated a larger amount of people to eventually form the country that we so love. So I'm appealing to the people of Estacada to stop bickering over the smallest things you see, whether that be an issue with a street, whether that be an issue with your neighbor's fence, or whether that be an issue that you have of race or whatever else it might be. Try to put that aside for a minute and have a conversation with somebody and try to find that common ground. Because if we can take a minute to find common ground, whether that be with us in the council or us as a community, we're going to achieve so much more than to run around like ants and not get things done. So there's no better time than a time as this, as we're coming out of COVID, as we're coming out of disasters, to make a change. And I just wanted to put that out there for our community, that now's the time to start talking. Now it's time to start changing. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Charity?
Thank you, Mayor Drinkwine. Thanks, Councilor Litke. I appreciate everything you said. I agree. I mean, we just need to kind of come together more as a community and quit the petty bickering. And I'm really excited to see that there are more people who are interested in joining the committees and commissions, and that are jumping into city council meetings and getting involved. And hopefully this is a step in the right direction as far as community involvement. With that said, I just don't really have a full ton to add. I just want to thank city staff as per usual for putting together a very large council packet and just everybody being here tonight and sharing your opinions and your thoughts, and taking the time to go over everything with care. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Charity. Paul?
I had the opportunity to sit in this afternoon on a meeting with the Forest Service, ODOT, Clackamas County Tourism, Mount Hood Tourism, and then there were several whitewater outfitters as well too, to talk about the opening of the river. The whitewater folks, they were kind of the stakeholders in this, and asking what would it take to get some partial opening up river, to get up to Hole in the Wall, Moore Creek, something like that, a place where they could still be able to survive as a small business owners, and get some recreation up there as well too. So their key point was, what can we do to maybe sequence, is what they called it, just do a partial opening. And ODOT said that they would talk about that as a team and see what they could come up with. But they said the plan is not to open the road up this year, possibly not even, or possibly at least not until the end of the summer. But they said they would talk about it. That said, the Forest Service said their focus on their priorities right now are to get Timothy Lake opened up and Ladee Flats as well too. So Ladee would be a good one, I think, for Estacada businesses, because a lot of folks head up there for the trails up in that area. That said, when Bennett shared that we should be writing and advocating for opening, I want to echo what she said. I think it would be good to get as many voices out there as we can to see what we can do, even if it's a partial opening, to get things opened up. And that's all I got to say. Thanks all for the discussion tonight, and staff for getting things together.
Thank you. Jerry.
I don't really have anything, dramatic or good. Thank you, staff, for all your amazing work, like always. The city would not work without you. Thank you guys for enduring with us on all our trials and tribulations that we go through, and everybody get vaccinated.
Good. Katie.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Justin.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. And on that note, so we're on the same page, I like, Paul, that you brought that up, that we should write our representatives, and I have a letter right here to Kurt Schrader on that same note about opening up earlier, looking at ways that we can work to get those riverfront open. I will put this to the city and let Denise and staff look it over and see if we're all on board with this. And then we can send this out as a collective. And I think that's a great idea. So thank you, Paul, for that. And on that note, you all did a great job. You all have a lot of opinions and you're a great council. You will always do what's right for the people. I know this. So I count on that. So I appreciate all of you, and staff. You're as wonderful as always, putting up with our arguments, our little things that we go through, and understanding where we're coming from or where we don't understand. So we appreciate you as well. So thank you all and have a great night. Thank you.